Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. It is Monday the 30th of December. This is your forecast through for New Year's Eve and the start of 2025. Let's get into the forecast. We've got a big southerly flow coming in and across the country today. So by 6 o'clock this evening, certainly the South Island is cooler and the lower North Island as well. Then you're going to see that system cross over the top of the country tonight, and that's going to bring in some wet weather for a time as we go through into New Year's Eve. Now there are a few moving parts to this. We've got the southerly flow coming in. We've got this big low that we've had since last week finally moving away. But just when you thought that was all over, there is a new low pressure zone forming just here off the coast of Waitanapa Upper. And over the next 24 hours, that is going to deepen out here, and we're going to have two systems side by side. This is a temperature map, so it shows that by the end of Monday, it's quite warm still around the top of the North Island, but that southerly change, the green shading, shows temperatures are down, especially when you compare it to the heat that you're seeing there in Australia. Not sure if the screen's showing you, but there's blue at the very bottom here. That is 0 degrees. So not far south of the country. It's pretty cold at the moment, and so that southerly will be felt for a time. Certainly not getting the heat and the humidity at the moment, or the heat maybe, but not the humidity. We're not getting those tropical airflows at the moment, and in fact over the next week or two, likely not to see a huge amount of humidity in the New Zealand area. We're going to talk about that more tomorrow, but let's get into the forecast now for New Year's Eve. So here's the double trouble, sort of. I mean, when our low does that, splits into two sections, it actually steals the energy from each other. So they don't, often these sort of big lows aren't very aggressive. But on this western side of it, you've got the high pressure zone over the Tasman. So between the high and that new low that's formed off the coast of the North Island, off that east coast, you're going to see that windy airflow, especially around the North Island. Strong to gale force southeasterly winds, southerly winds, and southwesterly winds as it curves around that low offshore from Gisborne. So that's going to drive in wet weather once again to the eastern side. Strong to gale force, possibly gale force winds around some parts of the North Island from the very top down towards Wellington. And then the South Island gets caught up in the east to southeasterly flow as well. That drives in some wet weather in the eastern side. Track it on the rain radar because it might be a little bit hit and miss. And the further south you go, good news, Southland and Otago, that's where the driest weather is going to be around the country and over on the west coast around Nelson as well. So that is as we look at 1 o'clock on New Year's Eve. Here's the good news going into nighttime. While we do still have some wet weather in the eastern North Island and maybe in the very eastern South Island around Canterbury up towards about Kaikoura, might get a couple of showers in there. Most places are drying out. That low is drifting a little further eastwards, and so it's still windy around parts of the North Island, but it does look drier as we go in towards midnight. Now with that wind around, if you're setting off fireworks, just be well aware anything that goes up is then going to go sideways. So keep that in mind. We've got a fire risk in some areas at the moment. Windy weather and fireworks do not go together. But you've got this low pressure zone off the east coast there, so if you're camping or you've got the awnings up and the tents up, it is going to be a windy couple of days ahead, and in fact off and on for the next week ahead. So let's now take a look at the rest of the week ahead. Here we are, January the 1st, Wednesday, New Year's Day, 2025. That low pressure zone to the east of the country consolidating into one area of low pressure. That keeps that southerly wind around the North Island and a few showers. And because it's summertime, although not everyone's agreeing with me on that, you may notice some of those showers turn a bit heavy and thundery. So again, on Wednesday, track it on rain radar in both of the main islands if rain matters to you. Otherwise, a lot of that wet weather is clearing away. It's still a bit windy around the North Island and potentially a southeasterly wind blowing around the very lower South Island, although it doesn't look too big to me. That is high pressure in the Tasman Sea. So as we go through to Thursday, that Tasman high pressure zone kind of links up with the other one, the main one, south of Australia. So it's not coming in towards us like you might think. So we're stuck between systems on Thursday. In other words, it's going to feel still like what we've been going through for the last few weeks. It's still a little bit windy, mostly around Auckland. Auckland seems to be the wind tunnel at the moment. We've got a news story on our website. Well, it's an education piece. Why is New Zealand so windy? If you haven't read it, go and take a look. It's in our app, ruralweather.co.nz, and at Weather Watch. And it explains why a setup like this one is actually quite normal for this time of the year. So we're still seeing a few showers around on Thursday, large dry areas. As we go through to Friday though, here is the next southerly change coming through. A weak bit of low pressure around the central part of the country. Here is the cold front moving into the top of New Zealand. So again, a windy westerly flow for some of you. That might turn a bit more southerly later in the day. We've got on this map here at lunchtime, west to southwest winds for the North Island, and we've got east to southeast winds for the South Island. So there is that low pressure zone smack bang in the middle. Could be a few thunderstorms as well as that moves northwards, and still high pressure parked out over towards Australia. So this weekend, stuck between two systems again. Auckland, showery and windy with those west to southwest winds. It'll be a little windy in parts of Northland and Coromandel Peninsula. Jump over to the other side, you're getting clipped again by a brief southerly. It is brief though, that is the good news. Now the rest of the country as we go through Saturday looks mostly dry. Could be a couple of west coast showers and also a small amount of showers around Southland. It's not going to build up to very much. Possibly Dunedin might get clipped by that as well. And as we go into Sunday, couple of showers around the North Island. Again, they could turn heavy into the afternoon. If rain matters to you, track the rain radar on the day rather than complaining that no one forecast the shower for you, because we don't typically forecast individual showers and individual clouds. Generally, we look at what's going on, but if it really matters to you that much, you should be on the rain radar all day long. We've also got a story on our website as well at the moment and in the app about how to get fewer nasty surprises from a rain forecast. It is amazing how many people who complain to us about lack of accuracy can't be bothered taking these other steps to check how much rain's on the way. So take a look at it. It's quick to read and it sort of does cover your butt if you're trying to plan stuff outdoors. But we do see a couple of showers around here on Sunday, but high pressure is trying to grow on in. This final map shows you it's still stormy down in the Southern Ocean. Highs coming through south of Australia. They are coming into the Tasman, and some of them are briefly coming into the South Island. I think we're going to be seeing more of that going into January, more life from the Southern Ocean dominating our weather. But it's worth noting the tropics, even though it is pretty quiet at the moment, technically today, we've had a tropical cyclone around Fiji. Wasn't named though because it's very short-lived, very weak. But the JTWC, the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre, did confirm that actually the time that we're recording this, there is a tropical cyclone around Fiji, but it's not named, it's not going to last, it's going to fall apart. But as we look at the tropics, I'll be keeping an eye to see what happens up here. Usually in January, we start to see some life, so we may well be looking at some tropical energy up there as we go further into the month. That's all from me for today. I'll be back again tomorrow, New Year's Eve, with our final broadcast for the year. It's our final one for the next 2 weeks as well. And just to recap on that, tomorrow's update, New Year's Eve, then we're off for 2 weeks. I got the date wrong the other day. I said we were back on Monday the 13th. It's actually Tuesday the 14th that we'll return with our normal-ish schedule. Depends on the weather at the time. Usually January's a little bit quiet, so we might not do our full 5 days a week. Lucky for some of us, but we'll see how we go. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow, Tuesday, with our New Year's Eve forecast. We'll catch you then.